just have some basic ideas about getting oriented towards the plan for tutoring. A key thing that I need to get out there for you is that I don't expect you to be tutoring until the third week of class. From when I'm shooting this video, that's next week. But these first 2 weeks of class are to get you kind of oriented and thinking about how to plan towards helping your student. So that first plan, I want it to be just focused on how are things actually going to work. So I want to know what the logistics are going to look like for you, the timing, all of those kinds of things. What have you actually been able to arrange? If that means that you might not be able to start the tutoring until the following week, we still have time in the semester for you to get in a good number of sessions. I'm hoping for you to get 10 tutoring sessions in with your kids, which means once a week for an hour. 45 to 50 minutes would be fine as well. A lot of people like to do shorter sessions with their kids, but maybe do twice a week, 20 minutes or something like that. So what should you be thinking about for the first plan? And I'm just going to orient you here with the sheet that you're seeing here. One of the things that I've learned over time is that kids who are hunting and problem solving are different from kids who are just being obedient in school. And I learned a lot of this psychology actually from reading about running, which is that I learned that the evolutionary biology behind reading is likely really related to the reading of signs by hunters in the hunter-gatherer period of human evolution. So this idea that a hunter is going out there and seeing signs on the ground and in the foliage and so on, and being able to read those signs, when they're doing that, they completely have this problem-solving area of their brain activated. And I'd like you to think about that. When you see kids who are actively treating something as a problem to be solved, they're on the hunt, they're looking to get things done, and they bring more resources to the problems that they're trying to solve than kids who are just completing tasks because they were told to. And like hunters in old times, we're still asking kids to read abstract signs, things that are distanced from the immediate goal that they're trying to get to. So I just have these two things down here that I know from my 20 years of working with readers who are struggling to find their path forward. My greatest asset is the kid who has turned on the problem solver, and I can see that that area of the brain is working. And my greatest hindrance as a reading teacher is a kid who is merely obedient, because those kids are compliant. They'll do what I tell them to, but they're going to learn to read very slowly, and maybe they won't progress at all because they're just trying to get the tasks done and make the tasks go away. They're not actually trying to solve a problem and figure out who they are as readers. So the second piece that I see with young readers is that their sense of intersubjectivity is depressed, and that's the psychology philosophy term for this. Competence theorists have talked about this, motivation theorists have talked about this more as relatedness. So let's talk about it that way. Your sense of relatedness organizes your responses to authority. So what I see over and over again with kids that are having struggles with reading over more than that first year is that they really feel like school and teachers are doing things to them. And that anytime they're asked to participate in reading, that they're groan and they're upset and so on. And not all of the kids are that way, but it's a huge trend that we see there. So what we're hoping for more is kids who really are sensing that my teachers and the people around me are doing things with me. So that relatedness has got to be a huge part of it. So anyway, kids who experience this early and frequent difficulty with reading, they do often get oriented towards just task completion, and the activity or time block called reading only means that to them. It's like I'm going to be given a series of tasks that I have to do, and I'm probably not going to be that good at it, but I'm going to do it because I don't want to get in trouble, that kind of thing. So there is a three-part model for self-determination theory in motivation, and it involves autonomy, relatedness, and on top of those two, competence is also vital. Kids have to feel like they're good at something. But the reason I put this diagram exactly this way is that too often with reading, we get these two foundational pieces stripped out, and we expect this post to be able to stand up without these foundations. lessons. So autonomy and relatedness, when you pull those out, this pole will fall down as well. You're not going to get quick competence growth if you take away autonomy and relatedness. So what does that have to do with you? The key thing is that you need to remember that once kids have become oriented in a negative way towards reading, they don't know how to reorient themselves, and they don't know why they would want to, because it's something they feel like, I'm not good at it, other people are good at it, that's their thing, not my thing. Not all kids are going to have those exact attitudes, but you're going to see issues with attitude and identity and engagement and interest that you're going to have to fix with part of your teaching. So the teacher has to be the one who brings the autonomy and the relatedness along with the competence. So if you push forward just on the competence pieces and you're not bringing the autonomy and relatedness, you're going to be making the problem worse, more likely, than making it better. So you need to be the organizer. The person who is building up this hunt for high-interest materials. It needs to become the central piece of the curriculum for this kid, that you come back to it week after week. What would we like to be seeing more of next week? Constant use of language that emphasizes relatedness. What are we going to do? How would you like to do this? How can I help? All of these pieces of language that you use that show that you're related and you're with the student instead of trying to get them to do things is going to change that sense of autonomy and relatedness. So those are key aspects of the planning right now. What are you going to do in your first week of tutoring to organize the hunt for high-interest materials and use language that emphasizes relatedness? And that's why I'm going to guide you to these resources, because as some of you have mentioned, the video that I shot last year is probably not the video that's going to work in 2020 for us. So organizing the hunt, I'm going to take you to goodreads.com and show you what I would do there. So goodreads.com, there's the book Born to Run. That has all of that information in it about how running and reading signs and hunting kind of come together. At any rate, I'm going to pull my tabs down so you can see how Goodreads is organized. Once you create an account in Goodreads, you have an account here like you would at any other place, but this is just a social networking site. It's not a book buying site or anything like that, even though they will give you links to be able to go out and buy things on Amazon and other places. But here's the central place. My books and community, those are a couple of things that you'll want to pay attention to. So in 2020, you're going to want to be able to share books with kids. So when I go to my books, you can see that I've been active on Goodreads for years, and I have created these shelves where I can categorize books. So a key thing that I would want you to think about is that if you're working with a kid, you might want to think about the kinds of books that they really gravitate towards. Are there authors they gravitate towards? But mostly what I'm thinking about is that you want to create a bookshelf that's dedicated to that kid. So if my kid is Braden, I'm going to make a shelf called Braden. So you see that I've got a shelf there called Braden. Now, if I'm searching for books, and you can see I can search my own lists of books here, but this is the general search tab here. So if I search for one of my favorite books, Bear Despair by Gaetan Doremus. I've already read it and so on, but when I have this idea that I want to get the book, this is this tab right under, this button and tab right underneath here. And as soon as I see that, I can choose where I want to put it. I can tell people that I've read it, I'm currently reading it, or I want to read it. And then I can just click Braden there. And now that book is on my Braden shelf. I'm just going to click the back button, get to my shelves here. And you see that book is now on my Braden shelf. So I have an online way. If I'm meeting with my student online, I can do screen sharing, or I can turn my FaceTime around if I'm using a phone and just show a student this list of books that I have put together. Now, how to get the books. So I'm going to go ahead and go to, this is the Poudre Libraries website, so Poudre River Public Libraries. I've just signed into my account, searched for the book Mouse Guard. It's a series by David Peterson. I've gotten into it. A lot of kids I know have gotten into it. If I go to that book, click in, my library account has tools that help me to make lists as well. So if I put that book in my basket, my book cart, and then see that I have items in my book cart, this is kind of a 2 or 3 step process, but it's kind of like Goodreads. Now that I have my cart there, these are books that I could order from the library, but it also lets me save them to a list. So I'm going to create the name Braden here. Okay, and then I'm going to go look for other books that Braden might have talked about with me. He might have talked about the Bone series as well. I'm going to put that in my cart. So I can save this all to the list. So once I've put these all together, I can save them all to my Braden list. And the check marks are going to tell me what to do. So if I have just one of them checked, I can add that one to my Braden list. And then if I go back to my main page, my account, I have my lists right there, right where I'm checking my checkouts, holds, fines, fees, everything like that. My list for Braden is there. So that's a way I can make a list. It's also easy to make lists on Amazon.com, but I'm going to show you another resource that is super important for teachers. So this is abebooks.com. It's a little bit like what you may have seen on Amazon.com before, which is that there are used booksellers there. But this is the original network for all of the used bookstores in the United States and the United Kingdom and Australia and Canada. So if I put in a favorite book and search for it, chances are I'm going to get a fairly inexpensive copy. So I can get this hardcover picture book for $12. Next highest one is $23. There aren't a lot of copies of this one for sale right now. It's kind of an older book. So what if I put in something else? Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Search it. I'm going to be able to get copies of books in that series for $3.60, and look at that. Free shipping. So if I have a family that's on board with the tutoring and we kind of get together on this idea of we're going to search for books together and get those books to the kids, it's going to take a little bit more time to get things this way, but you can actually get books that the kid might want or love or really wish they had into their hands. There's a good amount of research that's showing that a stack of 6 books that a kid loves is going to make a huge difference in their independent reading practice. That's really what you're hoping for, is kids who are going to practice reading so that they're getting the skills and strategies that you're teaching them. So I'm going to bring you back to Goodreads and to the library. Those are the other things that I've reviewed for you. I'm really going to promote the public library because there's a good chance that you should be able to make an arrangement with a public librarian so that you can order these books, put them on hold, and set them aside so that your tutoring student can show up and pick them up. So there are probably a lot of things that you need to do in terms of making phone calls or going into your public library to become best friends with a public librarian who can help you with this tutoring. So I'm going to stop there, but before I finish, I'm just going to come back to a couple of places. This is Google Images for self-determination theory. Do you see this autonomy, competence, and relatedness all entering into motivation? Why do we care about motivation? It's not just making the reading into entertainment. It's because when we use motivation psychology, the aspects of behavior that we change are persistence and effort. And we want an increase in persistence and effort. And what we want that to look like, I'm going to come right back to the top, is we want to look like that you and the kid have completely reoriented the reading program towards being on the hunt. We're trying to make this happen. We're trying to gain the skills. We're trying to get better at it. We're trying to get the materials that we want. And all of that's coming together. When it's coming together, you're going to get a stronger foundation inside of which you can teach the skills and strategies that will help this kid become competent. Okay? I'm going to stop there.